Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So this week I'm going to look at how minimalism has influenced the way that I make watercolor landscapes. On the screen you can see an example of one of these recent landscapes. I find myself recently coming back more to watercolor. It's a medium that I do tend to come back to again and again. I may go off and play around with digital art or acrylic or whatever it is, but I do tend to come back to watercolor. It's my favorite medium. It's the medium that I've had most success with. And by success, I mean it's the medium that I can express myself most confidently in. Charcoal would be a close second. The one thing about charcoal, of course, is you're slightly more limited. You don't really have color. I mean, yes, there are some compressed charcoal sticks that may have some color, some pigment added in. You can always use soft pastels and combine those with charcoal, or just soft pastels by themselves. Not exactly the same as charcoal, but yeah, as I say, watercolor is number one for me. And as I said, the watercolor paintings that I do have been influenced by minimalism. So minimalist art, when people hear the term, they maybe think of this type of thing. These sort of, I guess, installation style art was popular, or was around anyway, during the sort of 60s and 70s. Very often the artists were using objects that were bought or found, so things like concrete blocks or wooden blocks, neon lights, that type of thing. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm not going to get into all of that today. It's all just subjective opinions. But anyway, this type of minimalism is not what I'm talking about when I say minimalist art influenced the way I make watercolor landscapes. Instead, what I'm talking about is this sort of thing. So this is sort of Asian style art, more specifically a Japanese art form called sumie. Sumie, I guess, translates as ink painting, ink drawing. You can sometimes find that people use color, but very often it's just the black ink on white paper. And I do like the landscapes. So on the left hand side you can see two depictions of mountain, I guess probably Mount Fuji. The way that they sort of illustrate, or they capture the essence of the mountain with just a couple of strokes, a couple of brush strokes. That's what influences the way that I'm making watercolor landscape paintings these days. So 4 more examples, and you can see all 4 of them really are, the dominant feature is the horizon line. And in all cases, the horizon line is 1 or 2, maybe 3 brush marks. And that's, I think you can see, maybe that's where I mean when I say that this sumie is influencing my watercolor landscapes. And it's the whole idea of, being influenced by something as opposed to just copying something. So I'm not copying sumie. I'm not trying to paint in the way that sumie artists paint. I'm doing my own thing, but I am being influenced by them. And that sort of influence is a powerful way for artists to grow as artists and to expand their abilities. Being influenced and learning from other cultures, other art forms, other periods in art history. Again, if I was trying to teach someone watercolor painting, I would say pick a period in art history that interests you and look at what they were doing and why they were trying to do it and what it is about their art that appeals to you. You can definitely learn from the past and from other cultures. And I think it's something that in modern art is quite common. Picasso and others learnt from African art, for example. As I say, in my case, when I talk about minimalism, I'm talking really about sumi-e art. Now, watercolor, of course, gives you the option to use color, but you don't have to. If you look at the right-hand painting, I think it still stands on its own. It still has a degree of strength and power to it, even though it has no color. And in fact, again, if I was trying to teach someone watercolor painting, I would say spend the first few months just using neutral tint or black or Prussian blue or some sort of dark color, and just focus on things like values and edges and dry brush and wet and all of that sort of stuff that goes along with watercolor painting. Because once you've mastered that, then using color becomes a little bit easier. When I say mastered, is the wrong word. Maybe when you've become confident in using it. Confident is more achievable, maybe. More accustomed to the way watercolor works. And then you can start adding in color. Color just gives you another way to express yourself. I didn't start out with this. I started out trying to do sort of impressionist style watercolor paintings, like the one on the right. I haven't completely given up on impressionism. So if you look at those paintings, the one on the left, for example, I think there's still a hint of impressionism in there. But I'll say it is more influenced these days by that sort of minimalist sumi-e style landscape painting. So I guess takeaway from today is, don't be afraid to be influenced by other artists, but there's a difference between being influenced and just copying. I'm not actually trying to make my watercolors look like sumi-e art. I'm just taking some of the ideas and incorporating them into my own style of making landscapes, watercolor landscapes. Other things that I do now is using the white paper. I was kind of afraid before of leaving lots of white paper. Now I'm not. Some people look at that and say it's unfinished, it's just a sketch, blah, blah, blah. You're always going to get people that will criticize you no matter what you try and do. That's their sort of thing. That's what they thrive on, perhaps. I don't know. I'd rather just make art and not worry too much about what other people are doing or what other people are commenting on your own art. Do your own thing. Okay, well, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again in next week's video.